What the Tech is sponsored by Audible.com, the internet's leading provider of audiobooks, with more than 100,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. For a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/Andrew. And by Stitcher Radio. Listen on the go via the Stitcher mobile app. For more information, go to stitcher.com/GFQ.
What's the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech, the last show before Thanksgiving, and then we enter into our holiday madness, where Paul Thurrott guides us through stores to pick out what's best for the holiday season. How you doing, Paul?
Doing pretty well.
That's what we're doing.
I've often, I haven't done this in a couple of years, but I have often in the past gotten up early on Black Friday and gone into Best Buy, and even beyond, before that, even to like malls, just to witness the frenzy and then not actually buy anything.
It's almost sick, right?
It's like a gladiator game or something, or I don't quite get it.
My wife a couple years ago went to the outlet in Long Island, and it's like an hour and a half drive from here. She went to the outlet. There was no parking. She had to hop a fence. She tore her clothes open on the barbed wire on the fence.
Sure.
And to get one watch that was on sale by like $50.
But she got it.
And it wasn't the right watch.
Winning. Oh, no, not quite winning.
No, not winning at all. It was the wrong watch. So it was a disaster. And she said she'll never do it again. But it's fascinating how we get so involved in this, in the Black Friday madness, which we're going to talk a little bit about Black Friday and the chaos that happens from it. But there's a lot to talk about, Paul. A lot going on. Last week, Sinofsky stepped down from his position, or he was forced out. Is there more news that came out after we did the show? Just to kind of touch on that for a little bit, and then we could go into new stuff.
Yes. So I should have provided a link. Well, I didn't know we did. This is not in the show topic. So I believe it was Extreme Tech that published an article saying that they had confirmed that he was fired. And I had heard, there are these stories that they just ring true, and you shouldn't be fooled by this kind of stuff because these things that seem true aren't. But one of the very plausible stories I had heard was basically that he had approached Ballmer and said, look, I want some plan of succession. I expect to be the next CEO. I need you to draw this up and at least let me know what the time schedule is. And Ballmer refused, and Sinofsky said, if you don't do it, I'm going to quit. He said, go ahead. So that's interesting. But the one thing that has happened, and now I should have looked this up in advance, was I had written, this is not exactly tied to this Steven Sinofsky thing, but I had written an article last Thursday citing a source internal at Microsoft who had told me that Windows 8 sales weren't as strong as they were hoping, and that they blame the OEMs' ability to deliver, was how he had said it to me. And so I wrote up I was originally going to put it up.
Let me ask you, they're not talking about actual sales of the software. They're talking about in general.
Windows 8 sales in general are not as strong as what Microsoft was hoping. They're disappointed. And now what's interesting about a story like that is as soon as you publish something like that, Microsoft could come out and say, hey, by the way, we sold 30 million copies, and that's 20% better than Windows 7 at the same time in its life. And people will look at me and say, you jerk, this proves you wrong, and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, this is Microsoft's internal projections. In other words, they felt that they were going to sell a certain amount. I don't have any numbers, but they are not meeting those numbers, and that it's disappointing to Microsoft internally. Obviously, the public face of the company is they'll try to spin whatever the sales are as positively as they can. But I heard back from this guy, and the only way I can describe this person is that he is probably my best source at Microsoft, and he gives me incredible information, and I realize this doesn't help anyone else outside, but as far as I'm concerned, this is unassailable. This is just a fact. But it's interesting because he told me that the issue they have with the OEMs is twofold. That one, they planned and told Microsoft they were going to have a wide range of devices ready on launch day and didn't.
Yeah.
And two, that they didn't ship the quantities that they had promised of any of the device types they are shipping, because basically all of them were not sure which ones were going to sell well. So they kind of hemmed and hawed on it, and I think they kind of imploded on launch day because of that. And so I noticed this when I went to the Bellevue Microsoft store out near Microsoft campus in Redmond. When you go into that store, it's a beautiful store, a year ago or a year and a half ago, whenever I was there last, there were probably 17, 20 models of Windows 7 PCs in there. When I went in a couple of weeks ago, it was lots of Microsoft Surface, and I believe there were only 4 Windows 8 PCs in there, 4 different models. And that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Lenovo, was delayed with their shipment of their Windows 8 devices, that the ones that we wanted, really, they held back for a little bit. There's been a delay from Asus. Almost every Toshiba, almost every manufacturer has delayed the launch of these Windows 8 devices that we kind of want.
I think of it as the deer in the headlamp effect, where you see this oncoming car, and instead of acting decisively to move this way or that way, you just freeze and can't move. And that's what this PC Maker stuff seems like to me. It just seems like they just don't know what to make of this, and they're not sure how to react correctly. But, it's too bad.
But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Do we think it's because the economy's kind of slumped, is in a slump, they don't know how they're going to be able to sell these devices, or is it the risk factor of this new operating system that they're scared of?
Well, I mean, now you can only speculate. So actually, the original post, the one I'm talking about from a week ago, or from last Thursday rather, like I said, originally I was going to write it as a news story, but then as I started writing it, I started to think about what could be the causes. And so I started spelling them out. And this is one of those things where the fact at the beginning gets tied into the speculation at the bottom, and that's too bad, because the fact is Microsoft is disappointed internally that Windows 8 isn't selling as well as they anticipated it would. They blame the PC makers. But I thought, maybe the differences or the fault was a little more nuanced than that. And so I looked at all the different types of things. And yeah, definitely the economy is part of it. Obviously, I think some of the communications around Windows 8 internally, Microsoft are part of it. I listed out a whole list of things, but this is all just speculation. I mean, there are no great Windows 8 apps. I mean, for 1 year now, we've been talking about Metro apps. And, yes, there are thousands of apps, and okay, they did that, but I can't think of a single, not even a single, like killer, gotta have it, my computer is not complete unless I run this thing kind of app. I just don't think it exists.
But do you think that'll exist in the PC market, considering we're so reliant on traditional desktop applications? I think that's an uphill battle for them for the consumer to say, wow, this is the app that I need in Metro.
We're going to spend the next year speculating and debating and talking about this stuff. I mean, should Microsoft Office 2013 have been this kind of dual mode system that worked in a touch-friendly mode when it was a tablet and opened up this kind of more expansive UI when you attached a keyboard and a mouse? Maybe. Would that have been the killer app? Maybe. I don't really,
because they're pretty much,
I don't know.
They're pretty much developing a new ecosystem in an existing ecosystem.
Right.
And that's going to be a very difficult thing for them to do unless they, their end goal, obviously, or what we project them, that they're going to do is eliminate the desktop totally in the future of Windows, and this is going to be the future of Windows. But it's going to be a long time until that happens.
Yeah, there's so many issues that kind of run through my head when I think about this. But
the good news is people are talking about Microsoft now. It's not all about Apple. I mean, people are really curious about what's going to happen with Windows.
Sure. It's like the Jack Sparrow thing at the beginning of Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. But you have heard of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've heard of you because you're in the news a lot. Kind of like the Titanic was. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wrote, there was an editorial I wrote that went up today, which is about, finishing the job, which is something Microsoft's historically been bad at. That the culture at Microsoft is to ship product. But once the product ships, people don't care about it anymore at Microsoft. They move it on to the B team usually to service the thing. Windows 8 is a really good example of an OS that needs to be updated continually going forward for the next 3 years probably. I don't know if the culture at Microsoft can handle doing that. I do believe that part of the reason for Sinofsky to get out of there is to enable that to happen. That maybe he was a blocker on that kind of stuff. And so, I feel like I just say the same thing over and over again. We're gonna have to wait and see. There's no way to know what all the ramifications are of what just happened at Microsoft.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation that they're in. Yeah. I got an email last week, and they were asking, well, now that Steven Sinofsky's gone, is it possible they might bring back the start menu? It was after the tweet I sent out about thousands of people are downloading this Start 8 app that eliminates the start menu. And actually, if you are an enterprise user, you may want to use this application because it actually takes you directly into desktop.
Yeah.
So, there's some use there if that's what you want. But, you and I had it back and forth, but it's only thousands out of the millions that are downloading this. It's a very small percentage.
Yeah, I'm not very good at math. I actually wrote it out on a piece of paper. I eliminated all the zeros, and I'm like, this might be 1/100th or 1/1000th of a percent or whatever that is. But, I go, again, all these things kind of go through my head when I think about this stuff. And I go back to this event from 2 years ago. I met the Windows client team. We were talking about a particular topic, and Windows 8 came up. And this was way before they started talking about Windows 8. And I was really interested that they were even talking about it because they don't usually do that. And the thing that is said about Windows 8 was, when this thing comes out, it's going to be really different and everything, but we're going to ship it in a mode where a business can roll it out next to Windows 7, and it will look just like Windows 7. And so we know that people are already doing Windows 7. They're not going to stop doing Windows 7. They're not going to jump onto Windows 8 just because it's there. But we're going to make it really easy so that people can mix and match these things, and they'll sit side by side in an office, and no one will be able to tell the difference. And I remember thinking at the time, and again, I didn't know what Windows 8 was, as far as like what it became, but thinking that's a good idea, that will prevent companies from using Windows 8 as an excuse not to roll out Windows 7 when they hear that, right? That they're not going to hear some great new thing is coming. They're hearing, okay, look, there's another thing coming, but it will work just like Windows 7. So there's no reason to halt the Windows 7 rollout. And, of course, when Windows 8 comes out, you can't go right into the desktop. It doesn't really work that way. And I do sort of wonder if, the my way or the highway thing that Steven Sinofsky had is what prevented that. And if maybe that is something that will come back. And I hate to get into the will the start menu come back, will the start button come back kind of argument thing, but certainly booting into the desktop, I mean, it's such a small thing.
It's a small thing that I'm surprised they didn't give you the option to have. I could understand
not the way they do things. Yeah.
Yeah, I could understand the start menu. I could understand the start, okay, they're moving away from that and that's not what they want you to use, but at least give the user the option to go into desktop. But that's not what they're doing.
Yep. I think that should change. I think Windows should be smart enough that if it has these dual interfaces, if I boot it up on my computer, it should go right to the desktop. And the first time you do it, it should say, hey, it looks like you've got a pretty spanking computer with a keyboard and mouse and a big screen. I mean, we assume you want to use the desktop. Is that right? And if you say no, it will go to the start menu instead. Yeah. I mean, they should give you that option.
I think a lot of people would be much happier if that was the case, but it's not. Hey, I want to continue this, but we should talk about our sponsor. They've been off for a couple of weeks, and now they're back, and it's audible.com. And we haven't done an Audible pick of the week, and we've actually had this on the back burner for a couple of weeks now. You have a pretty cool pick this week. What is your Audible pick, Paul?
I'm nervous. Are you sure I haven't used this?
No, I'm positive. I'm almost positive.
Well, I'm going to give you a couple because I'll give you this one and I'll give you a new one too. So the pick I've had sitting here in the Google Doc for the past 18 weeks or whatever is Who I Am, the biography of Pete Townsend. And Pete Townsend, of course, is the guitarist for The Who and the creator of Tommy and lots of classic music. The thing that's interesting about this book to me is I'm not actually a fan of The Who almost at all. I don't have much of their music. I'm not, I'm not like a lifelong fan, but there is something about this guy's story that I find amazing. And I had read an interview with him, I think in Rolling Stone magazine. And this is one of those books where this guy just lays it out, and there's no, there's a lot of these celebrity type books and musician autobiographies are, are what they are. They're kind of bragging, or they hold back on the truly juicy stuff and everything. This guy's fairly controversial, so it's just an excellent story. It's really good if you like this kind of thing. And actually, like I said, I don't even like the Who, and it's just a great book, very interesting story.
One of the interesting things about the book is that you find out that he originally wanted the name of the band to be called The Hair.
Yeah,
which, I mean, could you imagine?
It's interesting because none of them have hair anymore.
None of them, no.
If you're not into the Who, I should mention that Mark Rzinovich's books are now available on Audible, and actually he wrote me to tell me that this week. So let me look. I haven't even looked, so let me see if I can find them.
Yeah, 0 Days on here.
Yeah, so these are excellent cyber thrillers. The first one is called 0 Day, right? And then the second book, which is a sequel, is called Trojan Horse. Both of these are excellent stories and extremely plausible. And so if you, I know you care about technology, you're listening to this, and if you like kind of a good thriller type story, kind of a, not quite a Dan Brown, but almost a Michael Crichton type story, I guess I would call it. Both of these books are very, very interesting and are just amazingly plausible. I mean, because obviously he understands the technology. It's all real world stuff. And as you read it, it becomes almost nerve-wracking because you think like, wow, this could actually happen. It's not some crazy sci-fi nutso story. This is something that could literally happen. Both of these stories, these two stories, are things that could happen today.
I'm actually purchasing it right now. I'm getting a 0 Day as we speak. And you could get it too if you go to audiblepodcast.com/Andrew and sign up. You get your free audiobook. And it's actually pretty cool because some of these books are like $30 and you get a credit for an audiobook, and you get the book and you listen to it for a couple hours, depending on which book. I believe this one is 9 hours, so it takes some time to listen to, so it's not like you're done in an hour. And you could sign up afterwards. I'm a big Audible fan. I have it for my wife. I have it for myself. My mother-in-law now got it.
Have you done the Whisper Sync for Voice thing yet?
No, I have not. What is that?
So the way this works is for certain titles, and it looks like the first of the two Mark Rzinovich books support this, and I don't think the Who I Am book does. But basically what it lets you do is you purchase both the audiobook and the book on Kindle. And if you know the way the Kindle works is you read the book, you're reading a book on a device, and then you pick up another device, and you pick up the book there, and it says, oh, you were last at position here. Did you want to continue? And you say yes. And it picks up from there. This lets you do that, but with audiobooks. And so you can switch back and forth. So if you're driving in the car, you can listen to the audiobook version. When you get home, you can open up your Kindle or one of the supported apps, and it will sync back to the version where you were at, back to the location where you were at in the audiobook. You read from there, and then the next time you get to the Audible version, it will sync back to where you were. So it does the whisper sync between the Kindle book and the audiobook.
Oh, that's actually really useful.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of those things where you could read it and listen to it at the same time, which sounded like okay, but this is actually a much better deal where you can go back and forth between the two, which is very useful, especially for people who commute.
Audible.com/Andrew to get your free audiobook. And I want to thank Audible for sponsoring What the Tech. Now, for people tuning in, if you're a little late, this is our drinking show today. We try to do it about once a month. I don't think we had one last month. I'm not too sure. I don't think we had one in October. I think we had one in September.
Yeah, it was away a lot.
Yeah, you were away a lot, and
I was so tired it was like I was drunk.
It was almost like you were drunk, yeah. And I was sober the entire month, so that was great. I am enjoying.
Sorry about that.
It's okay, Paul. I forgive you. I'm enjoying a nice glass of Italian Pinot Grigio we got over the weekend for my wife's birthday. What are you drinking, Paul?
Well, I am also drinking Italian wine. It's it's actually a Lamborghini Trasconi, I would imagine.
So does it have the Lamborghini logo on it?
Yes, it does. And so it's the same family. You can look this up. My understanding of the story, which was told to me by the, I guess the distributor of this wine, was that it is the same family, and they sold the name to the company that now makes the cars. Or licensed it or whatever. So I think they started out making cars, and then they eventually spun it off.
Rit Dog in our chat says Andrew's wearing an AC/DC shirt to honor the
Yes.
being able to buy Back in Black on iTunes. I didn't know you couldn't buy Back in Black on iTunes.
They were one of the last major holdouts.
Yeah, I had no idea that you were able to buy it again.
My brother had the best description ever of AC/DC. He refers to them as the meat and potatoes of rock and roll.
Hey, that's actually pretty. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I get, whenever we go to a bar and I get drunk, I start screaming "Hell's Bells," and I start screaming "Fire."
I think of them as kind of the ultimate workout music. You know, if you're going to get up on a treadmill, pretty much like the live version of Thunderstruck will get you through the entire 30 minutes.
Yeah. I like them. I don't know. I've had this shirt for so long. Jess got it for me a couple years ago, and it's just so raggedy. I just put it on, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to wear today.
Sure.
Zero effort. I want to
just like AC/DC.
Just like AC/DC. Zero effort.
I love AC/DC.
Yeah.
It's kind of
they're one of my favorite bands. To kind of go back to tech, we could do a rock show, Paul, if you want. That's something we could do in a couple of weeks. Not? But you have
Brian Johnson versus I already forgot his name versus the original lead singer. Now I'm going to hell because I can't.
I think Brian Johnson is better, in my opinion. But that's my opinion.
I have this weird thing. If you look at any classic rock bands that have gone through different phases, like Kiss would be a good example of this, or Van Halen.
Bon Scott, by the way, that's the name.
Bon Scott, thank you. I feel like a jackass. I often like the latter music from these groups where some of the hardcore fans would scoff at that stuff. You know, I don't think anyone would disagree that Back in Black is probably their best album, but well, actually, people probably would disagree with that. But I like a lot of the later AC/DC stuff.
Well, it's like saying, you know what? It's like for the first time ever, like the original is always better than the second. But I feel that Brian Johnson was better than Bon Scott. But that's like saying, was David Lee Roth better than Hagar?
Yes, he was.
And yes, he was.
So that's actually very easy to say.
That's very easy to say.
But I still liked a lot of that music.
Yeah. All right, we're putting them to sleep. So with our rock talk. I do want to touch on something. You recently revamped Win Super Site. You've been getting a lot of press this week from almost every blog that I've gone to. Mashable, TechCrunch,
really?
Engadget, The Verge. It's all about Paul Thurrott.
Wow.
Almost
I don't visit any of those sites, so you'll have to tell me what they say.
It was well, there were different it was different articles.
Right.
So
I assume well, I certainly a lot of people have stolen my Windows 8 is not doing well by Microsoft's own internal projection story and turned that story into Windows 8 is a failure, which was not the point of that at all.
Well, you had a couple of those, but you also had the leaked email, the goodbye email.
Oh, the Sinofsky.
Yeah, that was covered by almost all of them. But
I didn't realize no one else got that when I put it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny because it was all and the good thing is
I assumed everyone got that.
Yeah, good thing is you got credit for it. I mean that's the best part of it because really, you know,
they're growing up. It's so cute to watch all these little bloggers, you know,
giving credit,
hit puberty finally, and their little voices are changing.
But you had, but you had a very interesting article on there that I really enjoyed reading. You were talking about when you're shopping for tablets, and don't buy into the device, buy into the ecosystem.
Yep.
And I read that article and I go, you know, there's always this argument about which one to get. Is the iPad better? Should you get the Kindle? Should you get an Android tablet? Which one? And this kind of simplifies it, really. You're investing so much money into the ecosystem. And I would love to calculate how much money I've spent on iOS and Android over the last, 3-4 years.
Right. So a good friend of mine who's fairly affluent had written me semi-recently and said, I'd really like to buy the Surface thing, but I've spent all of this money on iTunes and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I just, the notion of starting over again was difficult for him to understand. And I wrote him back and I sort of made this argument that, like, A, you can afford it, and B, you have the time and inclination to go and find all the stuff you want and get it again and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, that is a big issue for people. And that's the lock-in thing, The fact that the iTunes stuff works on obviously Macs and iOS devices, but also the PCs today, makes it appealing unless you use a non-Apple device. But, I also feel like this move to Metro on the Windows side is the point where Apple's going to cut off that support, And if you have a Windows RT device like Surface today, you don't have any way to get access to that iTunes content. So you really want to be careful when you make this kind of decision. This is kind of an off-the-cuff remark. I had said something like, devices are temporary, but ecosystems are forever. Obviously, nothing is forever. But the ecosystem stuff is going to be around a lot longer than individual device types.
At what point can you jump? I mean, I would love to put a number on, like, okay, if you're in it only for a year, obviously you could jump. Yeah. But I'm really curious I'm really curious on how much money over the last 3 years that Android has developed, and I think Android has become a key player over the last 3 years, obviously. I wonder how much money the average Android user has spent, and I wonder how much money the average iPhone user has spent. I could guarantee you the iPhone user has spent far more than the Android user.
That's definitely true. Definitely.
And I wonder how this plays for Windows Phone and for BlackBerry that's going to be coming out in a couple months.
I wouldn't be surprised to discover that iTunes spending, and by iTunes I mean iTunes plus the App Store, is over 50% of the entire market, and that everything else is the other 50%. That said, that stuff's going to change because we're at a weird inflection point where the Google Play Store has matured. The Amazon stuff is absolutely there because obviously they have their own app store, but also all of the content. They've got Audible. They've got all of this, the Kindle stuff. Microsoft is there now. They're calling it Xbox Music this year, but whatever it is, they have their own stuff. You could do pretty well in probably any of these environments, but
sure.
Obviously, music goes across all of them. You can buy and should buy music from everybody. You should look for the best deal, or sometimes you'll see albums have certain extra songs on certain services and not on others. You should always shop around because that stuff works everywhere. But, aside from that, TV shows and movies, obviously apps, and then the special content. Like Apple has things like iTunes U, which I think is very special. Amazon has the Kindle, which I think is superior. And then those special features like Whisper Sync, and they have different cloud services, and there's all this stuff. I mean, it's really hard to describe. And to be fair, I don't think you're hurting too much to go in any one of these directions. If you just bought Nexus devices or other Google devices, other Android devices, and use Google Play exclusively, you'd probably be okay.
Yeah, sure. But think about the reconditioning that has been done for us as a consumer. We have been conditioned to buy software on a regular basis. And I don't think it was ever like that. I mean, I don't think people could look at a phone and say, okay, you know what, this is $299. I'll just buy it. Here, click, boom, done. I just bought it. I think that's been the amazing part, that we are so involved in this. And you know what? We buy without thinking. $299, $399.
Well, because these are micro payments, and then after a year, you've spent $2,500.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you do something like I got an iPod Touch recently, one of the new ones. You turn it on for the first time. You go through some crazy 27-step setup program, whatever it is. But once you get into the device, you've logged in with your iTunes account. You can go into the stores. You can see lists of all the apps you've ever purchased. You can see all the songs you've ever purchased, the songs that are up there in iTunes Match that you can download at any time. All of the TV shows, all of the movies, iTunes U, all that stuff is in there. Audiobooks, if you did that, iBooks, if you did that. I don't do a lot of that stuff through Apple, but that stuff, I mean, it's amazing, that remember, like just a couple years ago, you were responsible for backing that stuff up. So if you bought a movie from iTunes and you spent $10 or $20 or whatever it was, you were the one who had to back that thing up on your computer.
Even with music. I mean, even with music, like music last year, even up to last year, you had to manually back it up. And if you lost the songs, I mean, I think it was like a year ago or a year and a half ago, they allowed you to go back to your old purchases and just put them back in there.
But now it's all there. You know? Microsoft has had that feature for a while. Amazon has it now. Obviously, Apple has it now. And that makes the biggest difference in the world. It is the difference between starting over from scratch and starting over and saying, okay, I want you, I want you, I want you. And, you give it a little while to download, obviously, and it's all on there. And, I just got a Kindle Fire, the big version, the one that's like the big iPad. Those guys do an amazing job of, because you purchase it from them, it is pre-assigned to your account. So you go through, there's 2 steps. You basically log on to a Wi-Fi network. You tell them what time zone you're in. It says, are you Thurrott or whatever the account name is? And you say, yep.
Yeah.
And all your stuff is available. There's nothing to do. I mean, it's amazing.
It is.
How good the experience is.
There's a couple questions that I have for you and the audience, and I want to know how they're affected by this. I personally, because of this appification of everything that we do and this one-click buy, I see myself purchasing from Amazon a lot more now.
Purchasing what?
Just anything. Just goods.
Okay.
No, I'm not apps. I mean physical goods.
You're talking about physical goods.
Yeah, because of one-click buy. And I attribute that to the reconditioning of how I look at a purchase. It's this no-think way of just buying stuff, and I use my iPad or I use my Nexus, and I just click buy, and that's it. I just bought it, and I spent $50 without even thinking. And I'm curious if our viewers or if you have been affected by this whole one-click, no thought process behind it purchasing of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, we talk about how easy it is to make digital purchases. Boxes come from Amazon, and I don't even know what it is. If I was a normal person, when a box came from Amazon, I would have been tracking it on UPS or however they send stuff now, and it would have been like a big deal when it arrives. But like, I get so many boxes from this place, I don't even know. It's like a mini Christmas every time I open it because I have no idea what I'm looking at. I
bought paper towels the other day on Amazon.
Yeah,
like I didn't want to go to the store and I was buying stuff, so I bought paper towels. I mean,
I do everything like this. I went to a friend's house in Colorado a year ago. He made movie quality popcorn. And I said, you need to explain to me how you did this. This is amazing. My family would love this. So he did. He wrote down all the ingredients. I ordered it all on Amazon from his house, flew home. It arrived the next day. And it was like a huge, like a popcorn popper that you put in the thing. It was like a gallon jug of this bizarre orange oil crap that you use. The actual popcorn, of which is a certain type, and then some kind of an oil or whatever it is. I don't even know. This is crazy. It's like chemistry. But it was all through Amazon, And I think of amazing. Amazon as, I look at it as tech stuff, but it's Amazon's everything.
Everything.
Right?
I mean, because of Prime now, almost everybody that I know has Amazon Prime. You get it the following day. Someone in our chat room said they buy dishwashing detergent. I've done that before. I just buy everything. If I think about something that I need and I'm on the computer, I just go to Amazon and just purchase it. And I attribute that to, the whole iOS experience and the whole Android experience, that this is how we purchase stuff now. I mean, it's fascinating to me. So when we talk about the ecosystem, I guess we're also involved in the ecosystem as an Amazon, because they make it super easy for you to buy it. Amazon is an ecosystem that we're invested in.
Amazon is like a super ecosystem because Amazon has like the weird crossover stuff, right? And the huge advantage that they have over Apple is that you buy this other stuff from Amazon, right? So you and I think we both do Amazon Prime, and Amazon Prime is great for shipping, and it's a money savings if you get a lot of stuff, which I think we've established we do. And then they start tacking on this stuff that has nothing to do with shipping.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I mean, we get Amazon Prime Video now, which is basically their version of Netflix streaming, just by having Amazon Prime. It's funny how the physical world impacts the digital world over there. So it's I guess you'd call it a benefit of being firmly invested in the Amazon ecosystem. The Microsoft side, I'd like to see them do that, by the way. They have Xbox Video. I'm sorry. They have Xbox Live Gold. Am I saying that right? Yeah. And they have Xbox Music Pass. Why aren't those
together?
Yeah. Why isn't there something called Xbox Service that I just get all this stuff? It seems like I'm willing to invest in the Microsoft ecosystem. I mean, why don't you reward people for doing multiple things and make it cheaper to do more of the things?
Here is my Amazon purchase list over the last couple days. So I bought couple screws that I spent $15 on, a gigabit Ethernet cable, chicken breast tenders made in the USA for my dog. I also bought sweet potato treats for my dog. I mean, it just goes from anything to everything.
It's all over the map.
It's all over the map. And I think that's it's when you get involved in this ecosystem, you kind of stay committed regardless of, it's $1 or more here and there. This is what happens.
Borders is gone. Toys R Us is in the trash basket. I mean, these guys have destroyed a lot of they're not local. They've destroyed a lot of traditional retail businesses because, this is the new way of doing things.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I do want to talk about this a little bit more, but someone brought up an interesting thing that happened to me over the weekend. I went to the mall for my wife's birthday to do some shopping. We ended up buying nothing, by the way. We did end up vandalizing the Nordstrom and nearly getting thrown out of the mall. I don't know if you saw those pictures.
I did not.
There were mannequins, and their fingers, you can move their fingers, so we positioned all their fingers to be giving the finger to greet the people coming into the store. And we thought it was hysterical. Now, the very nice security guard, Tony, did not find it hysterical.
Not so funny.
And he escorted us out of the store, but it was worth it. But we went into Verizon because my wife's iPhone was broken and she needed to get something fixed. And I was playing around with the Windows phones. I have to tell you, by far, my favorite phone right now on the market is the HTC 8X.
Really?
By far, I mean, I spent a good 35 minutes with it.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved everything about it. I was almost going to buy it until I checked my email and I'm actually getting a review unit in 2 weeks. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to hold off on this. I loved it. And I actually liked it better than the Nokias that Verizon has.
Right.
The 822, I'm not too crazy about. This was, I mean, it was super fast. It was super smooth. I got it instantly. I didn't really have to think about using it.
Yeah. It's I think the form factor pulls people in.
Now,
for one thing,
are you a little bit? Are you not as much for it as you were a couple months ago when I spoke to you?
No, this is this is it.
Oh, okay.
You know, the thing is, we've talked a lot on this podcast about camera quality on these phones and how important that is, and this dream that in the future these things will be great. We could actually use them and everything. Something weird happened with this generation of Windows phones, and also with the current generation of Android phones, and I think in iPhone 5, of course, which is that for the first time, these phones all have really good cameras. And so all of the Windows phones that I've tested, Windows Phone 8 handsets, have really good cameras, actually. And so obviously, if camera is job one, there's the Lumia 920 and everything else. Like the 920 is it. That is the best camera. There's no doubt about it. The iPhone is probably number 2, very close. But, you know, bringing up the rear are all of the other phones, the 8X, the 820, the 8, I don't even know the numbers anymore, the 810, the 822 probably, I've not seen that one. I believe these things all basically have the same camera. You know, 8 megapixels, really high quality. They're good. They're really good cameras. And so the other things about the 8X put it over the top for me, but someone choosing the 920, for the camera especially, some people like the larger size, which is obviously fine. And then, of course, the Nokia apps, which are incredible. Those are all valid reasons to get those phones. But, you know, the 820, which is the AT&T version of the 822, is a beautiful, beautiful device. You can take the back off and put different color backs on. They have wireless charging if you do that. It's got an 8 megapixel camera, which is fantastic. There's a lot to like about it. So it's sort of like the ecosystems we were just talking about. All of a sudden, all the choices are good.
Yeah,
and so my choice is still the 8X, but these other ones are all great.
They are, and they're doing a good job. And I'll tell you, I think the consumers are seeing it because there were 3 people in the store buying a Windows phone.
Yeah,
and I was surprised when I saw it. Now, not as surprised as what I'm going to show you next. So I walked into the store, and Jessica goes to the customer service, and I just immediately go to the Windows phones. That was the first thing I did. And the first thing I see is this, and I'm going to pull it up on the camera right now. And I was so surprised to see this. This is what I see. Now, that's one of our shows. And it's Spencer Coben's The Bald Truth. And I was thinking, I'm like, who is this guy that went there and clicked on this and he left it on that?
Right.
I mean, I just found it really funny.
Well, so if I'm understanding what you're looking at there, that person went into the marketplace. So that's a featured podcast in the marketplace.
Yeah, it was like one of the top show.
Yeah, so if I go in there today, the Roth show is number 1. David Lee Roth.
Is it really?
But actually, you know what was number 5 is What the Tech.
Is it? Look at that.
And then, yeah. So I'm below David Lee Roth, and I have to say,
you're fine with that.
I am A-okay with that position, yeah.
He did a good job in Boston radio. He was doing Boston radio for a little bit. But I was surprised that so many people were buying it. And I asked the Verizon guy, I'm like, hey, can you tell me a little bit about this? And he had nothing to say. He goes, oh, it's a new Windows phone. That was it. Like I pretended I didn't know.
What do you need? What is it you need? What more do you need to know?
Yeah, he had nothing to say, but he could tell me all about the Galaxy Note and the Galaxy 8S.
So obviously these stories are going to vary considerably by store. I have to say, I have been routinely impressed every single time I walk into the local AT&T store by the quality of the service. Like, everyone dumps on AT&T, but honest to God, like I added a second line. They told me the cheapest way to do it. I got the Windows Phone. They were really up on it. They loved it. Very interesting. They offered this. You know, I was looking at the 820. Here's the 920. Are you sure you don't want this? And we went back and forth and all the different stuff. And it was really kind of amazing, other than the fact that it's always like that when I go in there. It's really kind of impressive. And every time someone kind of mindlessly dumps on AT&T, I'm confused by it, because I always have a really good experience with AT&T.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually getting an AT&T phone to review, so it's probably going to be the 920.
Yeah.
But my experience with AT&T wireless service has been phenomenal. And it was awful here in New York for many years. And I got a phone. They sent me a review unit a couple months ago, the big Galaxy Note.
Yep.
And it was better service than Verizon. I was so surprised by it. And every time that I called, I just want to see how customer service was. Phenomenal. It was great.
Yeah.
So I think they've probably, because they've had this bad reputation about their service for many years, they've really upped the ante.
It's not deserved anymore. It really
No.
isn't. I mean, obviously, any wireless carrier could be good or bad in your area. I mean, it's just, this is obviously a very local thing. And I would also say, if you travel at all, like I do, you need to pick according to where you go. You know, there are just certain places where AT&T works really well, and certain places it doesn't, and that's true of Verizon and so on and so forth. But, you know, there are other factors too. I've talked a lot about how good AT&T is when you go to Europe, you want to throw data on your phone, and how that works and how easy it is to do, and not just data, but international calling, international texting. Turn it on, turn it off. You can do all this stuff from your phone. It's amazing. I mean, and now I have like multiple phones on my account, and I go into the AT&T app on my phone. You can manage the phones from in here. You can see exactly how much data everything is using, what your plan is. I can actually turn off data remotely from my other phone from this phone so that it's not sitting at home, you know, sucking down data when I'm away and need it or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I've never had that awful AT&T experience that
a lot of people
pretty routinely read about, you know, but I thought it was always great. It's always been great for me.
I want to touch on the Xbox a little bit, because there was some news that came out this week. There was some, we don't know yet. Now, this is what I wanted to discuss with you, because you're a big gamer. You do it far more than me.
Yeah,
a little bit. I mean, I hear you like shooting games. That's what someone told me.
Yeah.
But there were leaked images that were released by Xbox World, which, by the way, they're closing up shop, I believe, December. Might be the last issue, from what I heard.
It is their last issue, yeah. This is a UK-based.
It's a UK-based magazine. And on the cover is a render of what the Xbox will be.
Do you have that there? Can we see it?
I'm going to pull it up right now. I had it, and it closed out. But what do you know about this, Paul?
So back in June, an amazing 56-page PowerPoint presentation leaked. It is clearly the real deal. People who refuse to believe that this stuff is real will point out that it was like a year or two old or something. And all the people I've talked to about this tell me that Microsoft was freaked by this leak, because it details exactly what they're going to do over the next 5 years.
And there it is.
And
I have it on screen.
Yeah. Oh, let me see. I got to wait for the delay. Okay. That I've not seen. So I can tell you this. I know for a fact that there are going to be multiple devices, that there's going to be a console and then other devices. It's going to be a lot like the plans that they have for, you know, Windows, Office, everything else, where they don't do like a monolithic update and then completely change it out, you know, 8 years down the road. They're going to update. You know, that's the plan for this thing. There's also a feeling that this might be the end of the road for hardware, right? That the future of Xbox is a self-updating service that occurs. So actually, it would be a set of services that occurs over time. That, you know, when if you think about like a traditional game console, and how kind of old-fashioned that notion is, and how things like the the OnLive service, could work across multiple devices and be very effective. It's not hard to imagine that in the near future, Microsoft will be able to deliver an Xbox service to all kinds of different device types, phones, tablets, PCs, set-top boxes, and TVs, and so forth. And so I think that's where this is heading. But I think this is the transition device that gets us there. Devices, I guess.
Now, did you see the last image I pulled up?
The one that was standing up on its
side?
That
was standing up, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
If this is it, I mean, this is a very attractive piece of hardware that I would not mind having in my living room. Unlike the original Xbox, that was big and clunky, and that's what I use right now. And it sounded like you had a jet in your living room.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, the thing was insane. The first one, the first 360.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you remember that?
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I thought you meant when I was talking, you could hear a jet. Yes.
Oh no. The first 360 was, I mean, insane.
Yes. I told you the story about the 360. I must have told you the story where.
Which one?
Well, I met with those guys in early first half of 2005, and I went down. They were down in the Millennium campus at that time, and they brought me into a room, and they had the development workstation, which was two gigantic Power Mac G5s side by side, dual processor in both, multiple cores probably, I don't remember exactly, with the sides open to let the air through because the things ran so hot. And then they had this Xbox controller connected to it with a wire, like a corded controller. And at the time, what they had was they had shown off what the design of the actual console was going to look like. So that first white Xbox 360, the shell of it was sitting next to it on the table. And these two, if you remember the Power Mac G5s, the big one, the first, those titanium style things, like the G5 versions,
yeah,
humongous. These things were like 3.5 feet tall. They went back 3.5 feet. They were huge. And so among the many questions I asked them at the time was, I don't understand how you're going to get all that gunk into this little box.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's possible. And they said, the guy said, don't worry about it. We got people. Alex Heaton or Alex somebody, I think. He said, don't worry about it. We got people working on that.
Well, that's why the power supply was out of the box.
So when I got the first unit from them, the power supply is the size of the Xbox today. It's like humongous. And I thought, okay, so that's part of how they did it.
Mine still works, by the way. My first gen.
Really?
Never got the red ring. I'm terrified to use it.
I've lost track, but I bet I've sent back 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah, I know everybody that I know. I guess I was lucky.
Yeah,
or maybe I just didn't use it enough. That could have also been the case.
We have 2 of the new ones, the black S style ones, and obviously they can heat up or sound up or whatever the term is when you're playing a game. You can hear the hum of the thing, but when you're playing media streaming stuff, it's quiet enough. It's obviously good enough to be in the living room.
But some of the things that I'm surprised about this device is that it's going to have a Blu-ray player, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at that because a couple months ago we were talking about killing optical totally in this device.
Well, Blu-ray is in that presentation.
Yeah.
Slot loaded. Well, actually, slot loaded I have as a question mark, so it just says Blu-ray. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You know why though? So here's the thing. When you look to the future, obviously what you think is, why do we even need optical media anymore? Shouldn't this stuff all be electronically distributed, right? That's the way we buy software today. It's the way we've been downloading software digitally for years and years and years. Why wouldn't you do that in the 360 or in the Xbox? Obviously, you can do it on the 360, but not for brand new games. And so when Call of Duty Black Ops 2 comes out, there's no way to log into your Xbox and download that thing over the internet. At least not on day one. They wait. And the reason they wait is this is kind of the relationship they have with the retailers. And if you think about these really big games like Halo 4 and Call of Duty Black Ops 2, people actually line up outside of stores waiting for this thing to open so they can get the game. And if you just did electronic downloads, that would not be possible. So when you don't have a device that you're selling a new version of every single year like Apple does, the Xbox 360 has been around since 2005. This is how you can generate excitement for your console.
Yeah, sure. I think what they should do is, if they do optical, they don't do optical. If they didn't do optical, a great way to kind of keep everybody happy is, let's say I go over to your house, Paul, and I have the new whatever, and I want to play with you. As soon as I log into my account, I could do you could do multiple logins. You log into yours, I log into mine on player 2, and it'll show whatever game I have, and we could play whatever game I have.
Yep. That's everything. But that's an argument you can make about everything. You know,
Sure.
why am I on the road for 2 weeks and I turn the TV on and I subscribe to HBO or Showtime when I'm home? How come I can't watch HBO or Showtime on the TV? Now, obviously they have an app. I get that. But I mean, in a beautiful digital world of the future, you know, me being me, I can touch my hand to a pad in the hotel and I've logged into all my stuff, and whatever I own in real life is made available to me right there. I mean, what you're describing is the same thing. It's one of those things like we are gonna get there, you know. But right now there are these complicated interweaving relationships that these content companies have with not just cable companies, but also sort of implicitly with hotel chains and, you know, whatever else. I mean, all kinds of things. I mean, you know, car makers now build iPhone connectors into their vehicles.
Yeah, some car manufacturers are thinking about having some sort of dock where you could put your iPad in there.
Sure, which is exactly what you should be looking at when you drive.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to play Angry Birds while I'm driving on my dash.
Well, have you seen the Tesla? So the Tesla vehicle has what looks like a giant iPad in the dashboard. It's a gigantic double-sized iPad touchscreen.
Oh, the entire. I think it's like.
Yeah, it's like the whole center console.
Yeah,
basically.
15 inches of a device going, you know, straight down. It's fascinating. But some of the other things we talked about the Blu-ray. It's going to include built-in Kinect 2, which is going to be next generation of Kinect.
Kind of obvious, but yeah, yep.
I'm curious on how it's going to be different than what we have now.
Well, it's not hard to imagine some of the ways. It will handle low light better. It will handle smaller rooms better. It will be more detailed. And so it will be the type of thing where it will be able to map your face and your facial expressions and you winking and smiling and all that stuff. And all the kind of stuff they talk about now, and they kind of pretend that it works now, but it doesn't really work. I mean, obviously, with the with the Kinect, you're just talking about better recognition. It's not hard. It's not hard to imagine how it could be better. So, I mean, to me, the Kinect is an easily solvable problem. One that I'm surprised they haven't done yet. But obviously, the reason is the new Xbox.
The new Xbox.
Yeah.
Now, we're seeing a lot of information about hardware, but software really hasn't been revealed yet.
Right.
And I'm curious if there's any kind of thought behind allowing your Metro apps to carry over to the Xbox. Yeah. We're talking about the ecosystem. Is that something that could be?
Yeah, one of the theories is that this thing will be another version of Windows, right? That it will be a Metro version.
And I'd be really happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to do it is to treat it like they treat Windows Phone, where there's a core set of stuff that works across all of them, and then there are device-specific things that are only for in this case, the Xbox 360. So if you think about Windows Phone, the core Windows 8 APIs are in there, but then there's this phone-specific stuff that you don't get on Windows 8, and that makes sense because, you know, a phone is a different thing. And so Xbox, also a different thing. But, I mean, speaking more generally, I think the big deal with this next Xbox is that, unlike the one today, which is, you know, kind of a fairly powerful hunk of hardware and so forth, but it's also really stupid. Like, it does one thing at a time. And I think we've talked about this, how slow it is to go in and out of apps. You know, it wasn't really designed for this purpose. I mean, to do multiple things, and it can't. And so I think one of the big deals of the new Xbox, whatever they base it on, whatever it's called, is this notion of multiple things happening at the same time, which has not been the way that any video game machine has ever been made before.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating because Sony's also getting ready to reveal their next version of their PlayStation. The odds are it's probably not going to be called the PlayStation 4 because the word 4 in Japanese is she, and it also happens to mean death. So it'll be quite ironic.
Death by woman.
Death. So
which, you know, frankly, it wouldn't be a bad one.
You know what? It wouldn't. It's not too far from what it could potentially be because I'm not too happy with the way that Sony has developed their UI over the last couple of years. But one fascinating thing about the information that we've gotten is that it is not going to be backwards compatible with any PlayStation 3 games or their Blu-ray.
Interesting.
So who knows what direction they're going to be headed in. I think Sony this year has a huge uphill battle when it comes to the console market, because Xbox has become the dominant force in this. The kids are getting the Wii U, which, by the way, has not gotten great reviews.
Well, the one thing Microsoft got right, and they were a little forward-leaning with this, was they embraced entertainment, right? The market for a dedicated video machine is pretty limited, right? I mean, it's tens of millions of units. I mean, and probably shrinking, I would say. I mean, one of the things we discovered with the iPhone and iPad and iPod Touch and all that was, and not just them, but Facebook as well, is that when you open up gaming to make it a more kind of casual thing, there's a bigger audience for that kind of stuff. And the Xbox 360 and the Xbox, the original Xbox in particular, were really aimed at hardcore gamers. You know, I spent a lot of time playing Call of Duty. I mean, this machine is, a Call of Duty machine. That's all it is for me. People like me are not not that numerous. I mean, more people want things like Netflix and Hulu Plus and all those other services. You know, the ability to rent movies and do that kind of stuff.
But Sony does it. But why hasn't it been successful for them?
They don't push it hard enough. You know, Microsoft has done a good job of communicating that that's what this thing is. And Microsoft can tell you that over 50% of all the time spent using an Xbox is done with entertainment things, not with games. I think on the Sony, Sony is a game, you know, well, actually, obviously Sony is an entertainment company, but Sony, from sort of a corporate perspective, has been so siloed for so long. They've never done a good job of bringing Sony music into the PS3 or Sony makes movies. Like, why isn't this some huge tie-in?
Yeah.
You know, you as a PlayStation 3 owner should be able to get a discount on Sony movies and on Sony music on whatever. I mean, but they've just never done that right.
Well, I think they understand hardware. They don't understand user experience at all. At all. I mean,
that's absolutely for sure.
And that's always been Sony's problem. I mean, from day one with the MP3 players, they've always been the same way.
Here's something to search. You should search for this right now. Go into Google and search for PlayStation 3 remote control, and then show what that thing looks like. And
it's like 10 feet tall, right?
Yeah, it is a grid of buttons, all of which are indiscernible from each other. There are probably 140 buttons on the thing, and that's Sony user interface. Like these guys just don't get it.
Look at that thing.
I have to wait to see it. So, yeah. Well, okay. So actually, that's just a Sony TV remote. I think.
That's Sony Media Blu-ray remote for PlayStation.
It is okay. You know, they just don't get it. You know, and I think the Apple TV remote is an extreme in the other direction. But Microsoft makes a really nice, inexpensive remote for the Xbox 360. That's a media remote. I don't have it here, but 1/10 as many buttons and all the buttons you need, that kind of thing. I mean, obviously there's a happy middle ground in everything, and the Microsoft one is a good one. That's an example of a good remote.
But Microsoft also, it's interesting because you could actually browse the web with Sony. You couldn't do that on the Xbox until recently.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, I never understood that. Why were they not putting a browser on the thing?
Well, okay, so Microsoft's approach has always been apps. So Microsoft would say, well, what is it you're trying to do on the web? I mean, we can give you a Facebook app, we can give you a Twitter app, we can give you a whatever app, and I think that's how they thought of it. I bet when we look back on this, a lot of people are not going to be browsing the web on IE10 on Xbox, and certainly there's more integration that could be had there. Microsoft has a version of IE that's on the phone. They have one obviously on PCs and on the Xbox, and these things don't really integrate well together. That's something that Google gets really right with Chrome. They do a very good job. If you have a Chrome on your handset or your tablet and you log in with your account and you go to your PC and log in with your account, you can transfer things back and forth. You can see your browsing history. You can bring up stuff you were looking at on the phone on your PC and so forth. I mean, hopefully Microsoft will get to that point. So I think getting the browser there is job one, and then we'll see where they take it from there.
Before we start wrapping it up, I do want to talk to you about Black Friday.
Okay.
Thursday's
Are you
Thanksgiving.
going to meet me? 4:00 in the morning.
Are you doing
Best
it?
Buy parking lot. I don't know. You know what happens on Thanksgiving is when I decide.
Because they do midnight here. All the stores open at midnight.
Yeah, they're probably doing that here too. So actually, this year, a lot of stores are opening on Thanksgiving, but not where I live. I live in a very puritanical state.
Yeah, I live where the Antichrist lives in New York City.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's no holidays. Get out of here.
Right.
But
Right.
I was looking for some deals, and obviously you're going to get the typical TV that's, extremely cheap, but every store gets one. So there's no chance you're going to get it. But I was
There's
going.
some chance. You
There's some
have to really want it.
You really
have
got
to be there. You have to be there early.
And possibly get hit in the face. So who knows? But CNET actually had a really interesting guide to some of the best deals for Black Friday. And I was surprised at the pricing this year. And then you realize that these TVs and these devices that they're putting on sale for there's an HD Toshiba 40-inch HD 1080p plasma.
Right.
Oh no, it's LCD. Sorry, LCD for $179. That's really cheap.
Sure.
But then you realize it's probably a TV from like 3 years ago.
Well, but is that all that someone may need? I mean,
I don't know. See, maybe this is like a sickness that I have, but I feel like I'm missing out because it's not this year's TV. Like there's a Toshiba that Sears has. It's a 50-inch Toshiba 1080p LED TV, $299. I mean, that's insanely cheap for a 50-inch. And I'm thinking, okay, I understand this is to get you in the door because most people are not going to buy it. They're losing a couple bucks on this thing. But also, you have to remember, these are older televisions. They're probably from 2 years ago or maybe like a year and a half. The original sticker price is not what it is, really.
Sure. That's true. That's true.
So are you gonna are you looking for anything this year?
No, I don't need anything, right? So that's kind of a problem. I mean, I don't need anything. And so when I look at Black Friday, I guess I look at people I know and what can I get for other people, that kind of thing. And like I said earlier, I think before the show started recording, I have gone into these Black Friday events and just done it for the crowd interaction and not, and it didn't buy anything. I mean, I don't need a TV, although, Black Friday, if you're going to make the trip, I mean, probably wouldn't be a bad time to look for that kind of thing for yourself, I guess. I mean, obviously it's designed for Christmas, but, if you're in the market, I mean, this would be the time to do it.
But I mean, you could pretty much find the stuff on Monday or online on the same day for maybe $50 more.
Well, but I think of it as if you're going to go out in the world, I mean, what's the type of thing that you would just want to get in person? Just from a perspective of I want to be able to return it easily if something goes south or whatever. I mean, a TV is a good example of something that may make more sense to buy in person than online.
I'm looking at some of these deals. There's actually a couple of them here. This is actually not bad. $399 HP Pavilion notebook, 14-inch display, Windows 8, $399.
Well, it may not be a bad deal. This is the type of thing like you got to kind of look this thing up. I mean, I see 500 gigabytes and I say, well, this thing has a hard drive, not an SSD. So, okay, that's fine. I mean, but these days that's the sign of a lower end computer. Yeah. Probably is fine. I mean, I don't mean to just totally discount it, but yeah. I mean, is this a good deal in the context of how much that thing actually costs normally? I don't know. You'd really want to look it up. You want to look up reviews. You want to go to trusted websites and CNET
did a good job with this because they actually reviewed it and they listed the good, the bad, and the bottom line for these devices. And I think that actually helps you. Like there's this.
So what were some of the dumb ones?
So do you see the Acer? This one that I have on the screen, 15-inch, Best Buy, $529. Not a crazy great deal. It's $500. Originally, I think it would be like $699 for the thing. So you're only saving $100. And it's a pretty decent, and it's touchscreen.
But it's a touchscreen. Okay.
Yeah. But it's all plastic.
Maybe it is all plastic.
Yeah.
By the way, I think the plastic thing is a little overdone. I have a Windows 8 tablet in here that's plastic. I've had those Samsung phones that are plastic. I mean, people often make this distinction, but plastic is something that is light.
Yeah, sure.
And so there are reasons for it too. I mean, obviously, you don't want the thing to flex when you type on it. There was actually the Lenovo IdeaPad Yoga, which is a great touchscreen kind of convertible Windows 8 machine in many ways. Because of where the hinges are in the device, if you press your finger near the Windows button at the bottom of the bezel, it actually kind of pushes in, like there's a little bit of give there.
Is it like that on all the models?
No, but I mean, this is just one I just happen to have. So that's not what you're looking for. Like, you don't want it to give like that. And so, that's something that you can't look at a device like that online and say.
And it's not a cheap device. It's pretty pricey. I mean, you're talking about $1,000 device for the Lenovo Yoga.
Yeah. I mean, it's solidly made and all that kind of stuff. I'm not suggesting it's cheap, but it's one of those things because of the design of it. It's got these latches that happen to be way out at the side, and it doesn't make a connection near the middle. So that's just the way it is. I mean, so.
Honestly, the best thing that I got on Black Friday had to have been about 2 years ago. I bought TV mounts for the wall, and they were originally $129, and I got 4 of them for $6.99. $6.99
to mount an HD TV.
To mount an HD TV.
Yeah.
And I mounted all my TVs on the wall. It was the best thing that I ever got. I thought that was the best deal ever. $6.
That is good. Yeah.
My TVs are still on the wall.
You could spend $100 on one of those things easily.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I don't go crazy for it. I know a lot of our viewers do. And I was curious on what the go-to item is this year. Obviously, you're going to have the TVs. You're going to have some computers. Netbooks are not in anymore, so those are gone.
What about phones? Why don't they do phones? If you went on Black Friday, you should be getting phones for like half off or for free.
Unsubsidized, half off.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. Someone said pillow pets. It's hysterical. That's hysterical. But we're getting ready to wrap up the show, finish up the show. We're over an hour already. It was our drinking show, so we started slurring by the end of the show. You know why, if you're listening right now. Paul, I want to thank you for joining me in this fun-filled drinking show. I don't think I've ever met you and not drank.
Yes.
Have we ever?
I'm sure that's coincidental.
I'm sure. I'm sure. But somebody actually asked me, I guess I actually get asked this question all the time. How did you meet Paul? And I say, in a bar. And we drank. And Paul and I go to Paul and I go, hey, you want to do a show with me? And Paul's like,
you have no idea.
Yes. And that was it. That's how it was born.
Paul said, finally.
Finally. I've never done a show before. But I think it was a fun show. I had a lot of fun drinking. I enjoyed my wine. My dog is sitting behind me.
I'm glad I didn't drink Bailey's. That would have been a mistake.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes that thing is gross. A couple too many glasses of that, you're just feeling it for hours. But so for the next couple of weeks, people have been asking me what our schedule is going to be. December is a funny month because we do our best of, worst of, and what was the other one that we do?
Wow.
We do best of.
I love that you asked me that.
I forgot. I can't believe
best
it.
Best of, worst of.
And I think you know what we do? What we hope for the new year.
Oh, God.
So I believe that the schedule's going to be, and let me look at the calendar because December gets a little funky.
I think so.
Not the 1st. So we're going to do the 4th is going to be best of. Really? The 11th is going to be worst of. Because worst of, do you want to do worst of first?
No. That's fine.
Because the worst of is like the best one.
Just thinking it's like, the beginning of the, it's coming up quick, I guess is all I'm saying.
Yeah. And then we'll do best of, worst of. The 18th will be what we hope for the new year. And then it's Christmas the following week. So there's obviously no show.
So Christmas is on Tuesday?
Yeah. 25th.
You're telling me that you can't record an episode on Christmas? What are you saying?
I mean, I can. I can. I mean, if you insist, we could just sit here and do a show.
No, it's okay.
And then it's the first.
I'll just put Skype on in my living room, and you can watch my kids open presents.
You know what? I guarantee people will watch.
Sure.
I put the camera outside of my window every time it snows. I put a snow cam up, and thousands of people watch.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and more than what we get for this show, so it's fascinating. So that's going to be the next couple of weeks. Obviously, if there's any kind of huge news, we'll be talking about it. But generally, we do best of, worst of.
So wait, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But that means that New Year's Day is also a Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday.
How are we going to handle that?
I don't know. Are we going to do a show? I can't imagine.
Take 2 weeks off.
Yeah, I guess, right? Or you know what we could do? We could push it to like Wednesday.
Yeah, we should consider.
We'll take the week of Christmas off.
Okay.
And we'll do the show maybe like Wednesday or Monday.
There you go.
Or probably Wednesday because Monday's Christmas.
A New Year's Eve show would be kind of good.
I did that once, and I'll tell the story.
Crazy, heavy drinking show.
Do you know how it ended? I did a New Year's Eve show once. You know how it ended? My wife sitting in the bedroom crying.
That is fantastic.
That's how the New Year's Eve show ended.
I'll tell you how it ends in the Thurrott household. It ends with fondue.
I wished it ended with fondue. We did a New Year's Eve show. We didn't go out. I said, you know what'll be great if we don't go out and we celebrate New Year's with the viewers. And Jess wanted nothing to do with it. So, but she said, you know what? It might be fun. Let's do it on the air. So we did it on the air.
Your wife, who obviously has common sense and is normal, says, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Terrible idea, but I convinced her that it's a great idea. New Year's, the ball dropped, and I go, I'll be up in 15 minutes. She sat in the bedroom crying till 1:30 in the morning.
The only ball that dropped that night.
Yeah. She sat in the bedroom crying till 1 o'clock in the morning thinking this is going to be my life for years and years and years.
Did you guys just meet or something? I don't understand how she didn't see this one coming.
It was like the first time I did I was on the air. Like we just started the network, so the impending doom started on New Year's for her.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was my New Year's a couple years ago when I did it on the air. So I don't think I'm allowed to do that anymore.
Okay. Well,
but I think the next couple of weeks will be fun. But I do encourage the viewers to send emails and tell us what they thought was the best product of the year. Obviously, the worst product of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
Worst tech story, biggest blunder. I'm sure RIM will be involved somewhere in there because we still have not seen the new BlackBerry release.
The rim job jokes will be all over the place.
Yeah, it'll be all over the place. So it should be a fun couple of weeks. We'll be off for Christmas and should be back on New Year's. So we got 3 weeks of shows and we're out of here. Paul, winsupersite.com, obviously.
Yep.
Anything that I don't know about, any kind of special apps you could download to get Paul Thurrott? Any new books coming out?
Well, I'm working on that free Windows Phone 8 book. So that's getting updated. WindowsPhoneBook.com if you would like to read in or participate or whatever. So that's there. Obviously, I'm on Twitter @Thurrott. I don't know. I'm on Google Plus supposedly, but I don't really do much with it. What is the point of Google Plus? Do you understand Google Plus?
No.
Do you use Google Plus?
I don't, and I should. People tell me all the time, you should use Google Plus, and I go, for what? Why?
I had Robert Scoble give me an impassioned plea for Google Plus that I found very interesting at the time, but as I was drunk, I don't remember what he said, but I remember... Well, it was weird because I think of I use Facebook for personal stuff. I use Twitter for work, and I told him this, and he said, yep. And then he said, this is why you need Google Plus. And I nodded my head a lot, and I said, this makes a lot of sense. And that was that.
That was it. So, you never thought of it again.
I don't remember what he said.
Well, you're on Twitter. You're active on Twitter. I'm on Twitter also, @Andrew Zarian on Twitter. I just tweet to Paul, pretty much.
Right.
Like, that's all I do on Twitter. And I get Paul's, followers that tweet me and involve me into it, and I feel like I'm part of something.
Jeez, wow. You are part of something.
Yeah, I feel like I belong. I belong to the Windows
Twitter
club.
Is where I go so people can just shit on me. So it's kind of fun like that. Well, if I get a little too egotistical, I just show up on Twitter.
Listen, that one guy that was pissed off at all the drunk talk, I don't think he's going to enjoy the show at all.
I don't remember that because I was drunk, but that sounds fascinating.
I got yelled at. He goes, I really enjoy the show, and I really like Paul, but you cut him off at times, and it annoys me.
Yeah, you are kind of a dick like that.
Am I? Do I really cut you off?
What are you talking about? I'm amazed that you get a word in edgewise. What are you talking about?
I just sit here and listen to you talk. I'm like a Paul Throck groupie. I'm like, oh, Paul's talking again.
No. People need to cut me off more often.
I enjoy doing the show, but this one guy will not be happy with the show. So that's all I'm saying. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. I'm gonna continue getting loaded off the air.
Me too.
We could do our regular Q&A. People ask me questions after we get off the air, and I answer them honestly. And I don't know, maybe Paul wants to join me, but who knows? All right, guys, we'll see you all next week on What to Tech. Good night, everybody.